This person is the Senior Manager of Growth and New Business Technology Platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding applause, let's make welcome Ebuka Ezewuzie.
Hi, good day, everybody. We're going to have a short, but I believe an insightful conversations, right? Agile, Bukola has talked a whole lot about what our journey has been like, right, in MTN Nigeria. How we've gone through all of those baby steps and gotten to the point where we are, that is actually executing and delivering significant business value. And I think that's really a story that resonates around other businesses that have really properly and fully adopted Agile. So I want to say again a big thank you to the organizers, right, for putting this workshop together. My slides are not up, but I won't bother using the slides anymore. I'll just talk, right? Today, we've all been very familiar with the Agile process, but I know that today as well, there are also some snags, right? Some complaints here and there from the various members of a Scrum team, whether it's the product owner or the Scrum Master or the developers. There are various, hey, why is this happening this way? Why is this not happening this way? So let's go through a few of those possible complaints or comments that typically happens. Are we familiar with a phrase whereby a product owner would be more like, why can't we take more items into the sprint? Does that resonate with anybody? Does that? Okay. And why are they saying that? From their perspective, they want more to be done, even though they're supposed to prioritize, right? And then things will be executed in line with the capacity, the velocity that can be accommodated by the Scrum team. But we're familiar with situations whereby the product owner still has those complaints, right? Because they want more to be done. Are we also familiar with situations whereby maybe the developers in the Scrum team or the Scrum Master will be more like, do these guys really know what they want? Why do we have to keep on taking more items and going through so many iterations and making changes on what we've built before? Does that also resonate with anybody? So these and more are some of the things that today's Agile Scrum and all the various Agile frameworks pretty much experiences. But these things can happen based on various reasons. It could be based on, one, the implementation of the framework, on the process within the organization, right? It could also be based on the understanding and how integrated the commercial teams and technology teams are to form the right orchestration of the right Scrum teams that are self-organizing. Not this one. All right, it's okay. That are self-organizing, right? That could also be one of the reasons as well. But these things are real, and they'll keep happening. What I'm here to talk about now is what we are thinking as where we are going beyond where we currently are in Agile. And we're going to talk about that. And this is going to be about the AI-augmented sprint. Next slide. Let's move. So today, let's even just stop on this one. Today, we have a lot of bottlenecks today in software delivery, software development, and software and product delivery. One is the reality that resources are not infinite, right? Human beings are not infinite. And it's human beings that are going to do the work, right? Resources are not infinite. That is also one of the realities that we have today. That and many more contributes to some of the bottlenecks today that pretty much slows down the process of generating an idea and being able to transform that idea into significant business values. How then do we pretty much augment these constraints that currently exist in our human world? One of the approaches that we are looking at in addressing this is introducing AI, augmenting our sprint processes, our sprint events, our sprint ceremonies with AI to pretty much improve the overall effectiveness of the entire sprint team, of the entire Scrum team. And what this pretty much involves is being aware of these critical bottlenecks and how we're actually going to address them. One is building the code. That is exactly one of the main things that generates the outputs from a sprint. Writing the actual code. Today, for you to be able to develop an application, you pretty much need to have skilled developers to be able to write the code. And not just skilled developers, you need to be able to have the right quantity of those developers. And not just having the right quantity of those developers, you need to be able to have the right mix of proficiencies. Front end, back end, integration, here and there. You need to have all of that to be able to write and deliver an increment from that sprint. What we see today is that software development is continuously being expensive, slow, and in some cases, scarce. So how do we overcome this? The next focus as well is in the area of optimizing our focus so that we can actually deliver the right capacity in batches. And then lastly is the high cost, pretty much, of every single sprint and every single increment that we're actually implementing. These are the real 2001 Agile context challenges and constraints that we have today. But the new reality for 2026, which is the AI paradigm, is now introducing artificial intelligence in solving these specific problems that have existed since 2021 up till now. But utilizing AI to pretty much address this. First is building the exact code. Now let's spend a bit more time on this. In building the code, there's a new concept today that is going to start becoming very accustomed in our work environments. I don't know how many of us have heard of this. It is referred to as the concept of citizen development. Have we heard of citizens development? Citizens development, right? What is citizens development? Citizens development is the realization that we as human beings, the technology teams have developers, but the resources face consistent constraints in terms of number of people. So instead of having, for the commercial teams and the business teams, the Scrum teams to depend solely on the technology teams to write code, we must be able to empower the team, the Scrum team, whether you're technical or you're non-technical, to be able to actually write code, to be able to develop software with tools that have been put in the hands of the commercial teams. That is referred to as the concept of citizens development. What that helps is to address this. And I know that we're beginning to start seeing that in one way or the other. Let me tell you a story. In MTN Nigeria, some time ago, for HR to be able to launch a survey out, many, many years ago, what does HR do? HR reaches out to IT. Hey, IT, I want to launch a survey. Can you build me a form for that? That used to happen many years ago, right? Many years ago, for you to be able to build a form to collect simple input from users, you must have to understand HTML code. You must know how to write HTML, right? You must also know one or two backend technology languages, whether it's Java or PHP or C# or whatever. You must also understand databases. How are you going to be able to collect that input and write that information to a database? These are the three things that you must have to know for you to just be able to create a form. So that means that all the commercial teams or non-technical teams have to rely solely on human beings technology proficient human beings to be able to do those things. But what happens today? Right? Today, anybody can create a form. Right? Am I right? Anybody today can create a form. We all do that today. This is the shift in the landscape, technology landscape that is happening today. And this is also, the shift is also even happening more with the introduction of AI. So let's move to the next slide and let's now see how we're going to be adapting this in our work. All right. So today, we pretty much have certain key activities that we take before, during, and after every sprint. One is the backlog and planning process. The other is the daily stand-up. We also have the retrospective, there's sprint review, and there's many more. How can we actually incorporate artificial intelligence in improving these certain processes? And there are some suggestions here. The one on the backlog and prioritization, one of the considerations here that we are also beginning to look at in the organization is for all the items in our sprint backlog, in our product backlog, we could actually utilize rules, specific enterprise business approved rules, introduce artificial intelligence, and based on those rules, utilize that to do the actual prioritization. What this means for us is that the product owner pretty much now has an assistant that works with him or her that actually enables him to actually prioritize the items in the product backlog before any sprint. And this is also one of the capabilities today that I think I read somewhere that Jira tool, which many of us use today for managing our work collaborations, are also incorporating. This is one of the ways by which AI augmentation is coming into the whole agile delivery process, especially the areas of backlog planning. The next is the daily stand-up meetings, which this one is also actually very, very, it's a very common practice, right, that every single person that is running a sprint today does. The daily stand-up meetings today, like we all know, basically means that we all have to come together and discuss and answer specific 3 questions. What was done today? What are we doing today? What do we need to do? Or what did not go so well? Today, we're also looking at how can we actually, even before the DSUs, generate these insights and let the entire Scrum team start to get these insights even before the DSU. So that as we are stepping into the DSU, all the stakeholders and the Scrum and the members of the Scrum team, right, are able to come together and discuss pre-generated insights of what has previously happened to actually improve and speed up the time that is spent on the DSUs. So we know today that many of our daily stand-up meetings are usually supposed to be 15 minutes, right? Am I right? Yeah. Are they always 15 minutes? Why do we think they are not always 15 minutes? What? Concept gets changed. What other suggestions do we have? Why do you think they're also not always 15 minutes? Sorry? Blockers are raised. Okay. All right. Other comments? I want to hear more as well. Why do you think they're not always 15 minutes? Exactly. All right. So, concept change, blockers that are raised, too much conversations in terms of details, right? Any other contribution? We practice these things daily, so I'm sure we have all of these experiences. Any other contributions? Okay. Before the DSU, do we think it would be valuable, right, for us all to get a summary of all the blockers, the status of those blockers, right? And also what is being done about those blockers. That is one. Second question I also want to ask. Do we also think it would be valuable for us to have what is referred to as async daily stand-up meeting? Which pretty much basically means that a daily stand-up meeting that for some of the times we have to have a daily stand-up meeting, we may not all have to be there, discussing right there, spending those times discussing those things before we can actually make progress. Do we think that that could also be valuable, that we could actually have a daily stand-up meeting that is not actually, doesn't actually require everybody to always, all the time, be physically there and right there. But we could actually provide our updates, and AI can actually help to put that all together, analyze all of that, and then provide the feedback to all members of the team as part of the summaries of the daily stand-up meeting. Do we think that that could be something useful?
So we use artificial intelligence in our daily stand-up. So what we do is we use Microsoft Teams, we capture the transcript. From the Microsoft Teams transcript, we put it in ChatGPT. We ask to summarize the meeting for daily stand-up in terms of the blockers, what were the impediments, what were some of the next steps in terms of the things we need to do. And the ChatGPT tool gives you a very nice idea of what are some of the next steps we need to do as a team using the transcript information. So it's a great platform to use ChatGPT and Microsoft Teams transcript to summarize your daily stand-up meetings and have some key takeaways there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So building on that as well, these are some of the ways by which AI is going to be augmenting our processes. But I actually do wish that we, at this point, are already beginning to incorporate this. I know some of us have already started incorporating things like utilizing Copilot for our meeting summaries and all of that. We're doing that now already, right? Yeah? Very, very awesome tool. The friction that we have today as well, additional friction, is refinement consumes excessive time with debate, based on debates. Right? Refinement consumes excessive time. Do we agree? All right. The AI intervention that is being proposed. Can we look through this? One is intelligent prioritization, which we've talked about. Utilizing artificial intelligence to rank backlog items, like I say, based on specific business priorities and business rules. It could be around revenue, usage, and various other things that are important to that business. What it pretty much means is that those long product backlogs that we have today can always consistently be evaluated by AI and being ranked and ordered for us to be able to pick and take onto the sprints. That reduces the time that it takes for prioritizations and the dependencies always that we face in that aspect. Next also, that is also very, very important, is acceptance criteria and edge cases. This speaks a whole lot to the areas of testing. See, I see testing as one of the most important activities that must happen in any software delivery process. Because the quality of the software that comes out is greatly influenced by the proficiency of the testers and the testing process. And where does those proficiency comes? Being able to identify not just to develop the test cases, but being able to identify the edge cases that must be tested, right? So how can we utilize AI pretty much in generating acceptance criteria, test cases, and edge cases for all our user stories that are logged in? These are very important considerations that we must have today for the new way of work when it comes to the Scrum team. So finally, just to put this whole thing to rest, is for us to understand that the way that we work today, the agile process that we know today has taken us thus far. But as we move beyond 2026, we must now start to incorporate more intelligent tools and processes to augment our work and improve our efficiencies and our effectiveness. What we've seen today are just some suggestions. There are a whole lot more that can be done, right, in this area. So let's just take these insights back, think through them, and start to find ways to incorporate them. One of the good starting areas to start with is to look through Jira. So Jira now has lots of plugins. Many of these things I've talked about right now, there are lots of plugins on Jira that does them. We just need to be able to go back to our teams, look through those plugins, figure them out, and start to incorporate them into our processes. Thank you, everybody.